Hello, everyone. This is Pastor Scott on Visible Ladies of Faith channel. The lesson is about the call of Gideon, in which our date is October the 16th, the Sunday school lesson. And I want to get right into this, the scriptures and what have you, and just talk about how we can tie it into, excuse me, sinus is early in the morning. So anyway, let's all bow our head. Father God, we just thank you for a beautiful day you created for us. And we're just asking you to open our minds as teachers and as students to ask the questions so we can understand the call of Gideon. Just open our mind to this lesson, that we receive it, that we can improve the quality of our lives. In your name, Jesus, amen. As I said, the call of Gideon. Just want to make some points. When we read our scriptures, well, of course, teachers, be receptive to your students, and students ask those questions, and don't be afraid to ask the question that is you think that you might be embarrassed with. You should ask the question. That's how we should show the spirits of what we are being Christ-like, because we want to learn. First thing you want to say, questions versus statements. Make sure that when you see a question mark, it's a question, and that's a question that either someone is asking someone. And here's a few questions in this lesson that we want to pay attention to. And if anything, at the bottom line, our goal is to trust God. Okay, let's just do a brief reading of the lesson, and just go through that. And some of the terms, I may not have pronounced them correctly, because these names, sometimes, and I think about Reverend Hill. He said, if you can't say it, just spell it. Anyway, the Israelites did evil in the eyes of the Lord for 7 years. He gave them into the hands of the Midianites, because the power of the Midians was so oppressive that the Israelites prepared shelters for themselves in the mountains and clefts, caves, and strongholds. And the 7th verse. Matter of fact, I'm reading out of the NIV. So make sure you understand which I'm reading out of. This is the version I'm reading out of. When the Israelites cried, out to the Lord because of the Midians, he sent them a prophet. Well, we don't know who that prophet is, who said, "This is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. I brought you up out of Egypt and the land of slavery. I rescued from the hands of the Egyptians, and I delivered you from the hands of all your oppressors," the Amorites and all, that did not like the Israelites. And still some of that is going on today. "I drove them out and before you and gave you their land. I said to you, I am the Lord your God. Do not worship the gods of the Amorites." Here we go again. Going to something else, today, it's not idol gods. We're worshiping men today. And whose land you live. But you have not listened to me. The angel of the Lord came and sat down under the oath in the Oprah that belonged to the Joash, the Asbarite. Well, it's Abiezrite, where his son Gideon was threshing wheat in a winepress to keep it from the Midianites. When the angel of the Lord appeared to the Gideons, he said, "The Lord is with you, mighty warrior." "Pardon me." Okay, here we go, a question here. "Pardon me, my Lord," Gideon replied. "But if the Lord is with us, why has all these things happened to us? Where are all the wonders that our ancestors told us about when they said, 'Did not the Lord bring us up out of Egypt?' But now the Lord has abandoned us and given us into the hands of the Midians." The Lord turned to him and said, "Go in the strength and you have saved Israel out of the Midian hands. Am I not sending you?" Here we go. He says, "Pardon me, my Lord." Here goes Gideon again. It says, reply, "But how can I save Israel? My clan, my group," here sounds like Moses, "is the weakness in Manasseh Manasseh, and I am the least in any family. But here's the thing, if you don't get anything else in that last part of the lesson, it says, the Lord answered, I will be with you. Remember I said we need to trust God? When God says he's with you, he's with you. And I know we on this channel, we say, well, how do you know when God's with you and what have you? You have to build a relationship. Matter of fact, we need to be building relationships with one another so we can understand if they're with you or not. And thinking about, when you say relationship, I can speak at my relationship with my wife going on 40-something years. And there's at times I kind of threw my hand up and I was ready to walk away. And I'm sure if she was here, she would tell you the same thing. But the Lord was with us. And the proof in the pudding is we've been 40-something years and I'm still not turn her over to the wolves or throw her out. And I had to let her speak for herself because I'd rather have the words come out of her mouth. But this is a relationship between God and it's also two individuals in here. There's God and there's also an angel that is spoke of. And there's also a prophet. And so that makes three. This prophet, I don't know who it is. But the angel that came in his setting and was having this conversation and was talking to the Lord, and Gideon was talking to him, he had a couple of questions. Excuse me. Especially, we're going to first establish in that very first verse, and we want to emphasize this. Because in our relationships, when we do something wrong, we expect God to punish us when we do something wrong immediately, and then reward us when we do something good. It doesn't work like that. Because if you notice, it says the Israelites, it was 7 years of this hard-headed, this evil. And God said, okay, you're not going to learn. I'm going to let you go into it. That's the way life is, too. If you keep going down, let's just say, I had an example the other day. If I keep telling my son, stop stealing, stop taking things that are not yours, and he keeps doing it, and eventually I'm just going to turn and say, I'm not going to be trying to bail you out. You're going to have to learn that lesson because you think it's okay. Just like when we run a red light. You think everything is okay. Just because you got away with this one time. But eventually, as a lawyer told me one time when I was a manager, he told me, he says, even though it looks like you can get away with it, but you're going to be going to a very important meeting, getting off on an airplane, going to this meeting, and you're going to get pulled over because you got an outstanding warrant. So it's best to go ahead and sign and pay it. And it's only about $40, at that time. Tickets in the hundreds of dollars now. But anyway, emphasizing the point, God gave them 7 years of their evil ways. And then he said, enough is enough. I want to emphasize that. Because when we keep doing something over and over again and say, Lord, forgive me, Lord, forgive me. It works like that with your health. Because, being when you get bigger and you start gaining more weight, you can get into becoming a diabetic. And that's my fault because I keep picking up the spoon and keep eating or eating the wrong thing. That's my fault. But when I start stopping and doing something about it and decreasing those numbers, then my quality of life becomes. So the point I want to make is when we get in trouble with God, it's because we keep repeating the offense that he keeps telling us to stop doing it. Okay? Now, also want to mention, too, my wife made a very good point, too, about Gideon. Each and every one, and it's another point, too, that I think is very interesting because everybody puts pastors and everything on this pedestal and think they have a direct line to God. I teach all ages, pray. And it's kind of like it feels like different movies. And there's one movie that it was the Fast and the Furious, and it was a little boy that was in. I think his name was Brian. And I thought it was really interesting, those that like action movies. But some of you may say, "What are you doing watching these action movies?" Sometimes you wish God would go in. When I see stuff that's being blown up, I wish that was the solution to things, but that is not the solution to things. which is just a movie and just entertainment. But the point I want to make is this, that he told a little boy, because they say grace at the end of the movie, and they chose little Brian to say it. And he said what he said to him. He said, just pray what's in your heart. But I know Christians, oh yeah, well, you got to have Jesus, you got to have this. Well, God's listening to what's in your heart. Listen to the sincerity. It's not the words, the quality, and all that. It's just that they're saying what's in their heart. We're not perfect. And that's just what I like when my wife made this statement. It says, God called people to do what they asked to do. Well, let me stop. God did not call perfect people. That's the clearest I can say it. And sometimes I get wrapped around the act, so I got to slow down sometimes. But anyway, no, we're not perfect. None of us perfect. Moses was not perfect. Abraham was not. None of them were perfect. But what's in their heart is my point. It's what we're called to do, things that God asked us to do. But when we finally call, we're going to find out later on that Gideon's just like Moses was. Well, I'll tell you now. When Gideon was called, he was called to go down and save the Israelites. How in the world can I do that? He says, I'm in the weakest clan. Mine is not strong. I don't have a whole lot of money. But you stop and think about it. Moses, he had a lot of education, and God's education and life education. He did well leading the children of Israel out of Egypt. David was a shepherd. He was meek. But you had to have, in other words, the point of all these things is that you had to find someone that's going to listen to God and trust God. And if you have all these doctorate degree and I graduated from a prestigious college like Yale or MIT or something like that, I'm better than you. And I think I've discussed this before because my degrees is from Cal State Dominguez. And they said, oh, that's just a mediocre school and everything. But the professors had doctorates and PhDs from USC and some of the schools back out in the Midwest and some of these elite schools. And I'm saying to myself, if my degree is less than the schools they come from, then they must have sent us mediocre doctors or something. But that's not the case. And and I'm not judging one. But bottom line, let me slow down again. People's egos get in the way. They think if you don't have that name behind it, that don't mean that your quality education is that good. But we also found in my children says, the education, you can have a degree from an MIT or Harvard or what have you, but still, if you're not a good person, you still don't understand the concepts of business and what have you, it's just a degree. Anyway, like I said, God did not call perfect people. And I give credit to my wife. She came up with that idea. And when you sit in these discussions, you get a lot of good things that come. So that's why we say teachers and students, teachers, take your eagles, check them at the door. Students, take your fear, check them at the door, and interact so we can learn more. And don't worry about the mistakes, and don't worry about saying, I don't know. So those are the perfect people. And it says, and then the other thing we should also keep in mind, too. What are we teaching our children? And how are we teaching our children? I'm going to just give you a little bit of a tidbit. Because when I sit out in the world and it's, I won't say it, but MF, you know what it's, you hear people just using that word just very freely. And I'm not going to get into the history of it because I don't, it sounds, what I think it sounds logical, but I won't say it. But anyway, if you're calling your child, come here, you little MF. And you're calling that, and as a matter of fact, it was kind of funny. I was out eating dinner or something with one of my, I think it was my sister. Oh, she told me the story about it. And there was a lot of little kids running around in there, and one of them was, come here, you little MF. And all the little kids' heads popped up. I guess they all thought their name was MF. So, what are you teaching your kids? And it's the same thing in this lesson. What are you teaching people? Because in that 13th verse, it says, pardon me, my Lord. And Gideon replied, he says, But if the Lord is with us, why is this happening to us right now? Why has it happened to the Israelites? Go back to the first verse. 7 years, that's what you were doing. 7 years of evil. That's why you're in this predicament. And then also, too, I tried to get this also in here, that if you're put it in simpler terms. If you've been running red lights for 7 years and you haven't got caught, and then when you finally get caught, you get caught in one of the worst accidents and you end up maybe losing your home all over, and you're asking, well, how come you didn't protect me? You were protecting me for the 7 years, but why not? It's against the law to run the red light. It's that simple. And all those that drive understand what I'm talking about. It's that simple. And we want to turn around and shift the blame and put it on God. Because I've heard this thing. He says, well, if this kid is sitting in the park in a drive-by shooting, he catches the bullet. How come, if there's a God, then why in the world he did stop it? Well, free will, man. God didn't pull the trigger. And you always expected someone to come bail you out when God give you everything, that you're making that decision. Unfortunately, that child was gunned down, and we think it was shortening their life, but we don't know all things. So, again, come back to that thing, trusting God. It sounds like, oh, how in the world can you live? Hey, I'm going through the same thing. I'm asking why? But I keep praying, keep talking about it, because God has been so good to me that when you make one of these decisions, or take one of my loved ones, or I lose, and I hope I do not lose one of my children before I'm called from this, because that, I've watched friends, that's devastating in the family. So, but still, I'm going to continue to say, trust God, because he's been very good to me. And yes, I have some things that I can start telling you, some of the sad stories. Yes, I lost loved ones. I had ones that had cancer that scared me. It's all kind of things that's happening in the family. But I choose not to sit here and dwell on it. I choose to trust God. So anyway, why was Gideon? It's the same thing. It's not, first of all, we shouldn't be afraid with our relationship, because I think I've said it before, that it was sometimes I was very angry. It says, if you really are real, you got it. I have to understand, I really, really want to understand. And I'm glad, I'm comfortable and have confidence to talk to God honestly. And if I tell him I don't like it, it stinks. I don't like your decision. I don't like what you did, God. I tell him that, because I'm coming from my heart, just like I'm saying. I talk to him with a serious. He's a very close friend, but I'm a lot more mature now. That's when I was younger, and that's fascinating to me. As I get older and more mature, and I understand, I see what's in my control, and I see what God can help me with. And if I'm consistently trusting Him, good things do happen. Matter of fact, it's not about me anymore. It's about other people that I can help. I'm hoping that I can help with, trying to home in the craft and trying to be more focused and trying to explain to you the best that I can how God works with you. So my wife asked that question. They say, how do you know when God's working with you? How do you know this? You got to build a relationship. First of all, if you want to know what God's talking, read your Bible. A lot of people say, oh, it's just too many words. That's me too. But I've learned to take the time to talk to God and listen to God, and just seeing patterns in my life, just looking at the patterns, and things are getting better. Sometimes I'm harder on myself than others, because I always want to do a good job, but also spread myself thin. That's me. So I'm giving you a little bit of insight how I am in my relationship with God. But it takes time. But let's just stick with this. This is what Gideon. He was questioned, but the answer's in that first verse, and why he did that. And then also, too, I had also mentioned toward the end of the lesson, God is given Gideon. Oh, Gideon, by the way, Gideon's not the prophet. He's the judge. He's a judge. That's his title. And he's trying to say, well, how in the world I'm going to do it? And he says, and it's the thing that God was saying, no, I asked you to go do it. And just to give you an example of that, because God asked, because this is my second marriage. First marriage didn't last that long. But but my point is, I have learned from that marriage that I had to do better in this one, and I knew I needed to get a degree to support my family. And going back there, because I was told so much that I didn't have the intelligence to finish college and what have you. But straight to the bottom line, which is not true, because I graduated with honors. But I kept telling God, just same thing, Gideon. Well, my mom and dad only had a 6th and 7th grade education. Oh, I can't do this and I can't do that. But if just allow me to get a C. God was good. He allowed me to graduate with honors. So, because all they had, and I'm going to say this really slow. What are we teaching our kids? Do not allow these teachers to tell your kids, or they are not college material. They should just go find something to work with their hands and what have you. That's all a lie. It depends on what work you want to put in. Because I have cousins that was put in this special ed, and this particular cousin and everything. I'm so proud of him because his job and his career, and he's getting ready to retire. But he was there, and I'm so proud of him. But guess what? He's a captain of an airline. And I won't say which airline or anything like that because I don't want to get in trouble with because I don't know what repercussions, because people out there in the internet take things. But he's special training. Oh, he's not so smart, but he's flying airplanes. He took the time and educated himself because he was really interested in it. I have another very close friend. We got to keep him back because he's not too smart enough, so we're going to have to pass him over and do this. This guy has his master's degree, and he has his own private business, and he's doing very well. So all these things that when people tell you these things, is I'm not going to get into dig down deeper into it, but just letting you know. And matter of fact, both of these, they're walking with God. So and it's not a miracle. It's a lot of this stuff in this world. That's what I'm trying to tell you. People keep telling you things. Are you going to listen to God, or are you going to listen to what these people are telling you? And Gideon was told, was being, matter of fact, you see there's an angel. That far is with Gideon, there was an angel that's responding, God is responding to him and telling Gideon, yes, these things are happening to him, but it's the Israelites' responsibility and their fault for being oppressed. Because what do we keep doing? Let's talk about that a little bit. They said, it's always in the Bible, worshiping idol gods and what have you. Let's push that aside. What's going on today? Well, the idol gods, I can tell you one, Donald Trump. That's what he is. They follow the man. Now, I'm not going to say, he's saying these things. All I can do is, I like the word facts. I'm not here to criticize any of those mega people or anything like that. If that's what they believe in and that's what they have, then all I can tell you, if they like destruction, if they like spending their times, with judges, and then plus on top of that, if everything was so perfect, then why did they have to stack and put their judges? Why did they have to get people to lie? Why did they have to? What's all with all the lying and the cloak and daggers? What is that all about? If it is good, then why you got to wrap all this evil around it that's not good? Because a lie to me is evil. So if someone tells me that Donald Trump has never told a lie, then I don't know what world, universe we're living in right now. So I really don't want to put too much of that, and let's just push that to the side. That's an idol. That's an idol god. A politician, that's an idol god. Organizations, that's an idol. And what I'm saying is, just since I've mentioned that, when I look at the Republicans and the Democrats, there's problems in both of these because it's human beings, and it's going back to that thing. It says God did not just call perfect people. And what I meant, I want to make sure you understand that these people were not perfect, but they're good people. And when I say good people, they do good things. And let's take race out of the equation if you're thinking that. Let's just take out economics and what have you. This world is good versus evil. That's simple. Good versus evil. Now, people want to define things, and I can't get to any deeper than that, because one of the things I want to be sure of is this: people can start defining what good is and what evil is. Now, at the end of the day, I'm coming from this place. If there was truly a fire sitting here, and I put my hand in it, and if you're going to tell me my hand is not going to burn, and we're not going to smell meat and everything, then I know you're not dealing with reality. Because I put my hand in that fire, my hand will burn, and I know, and it will hurt. So we as human beings, we do know what the truth is, and we do know what accountability is. Just like the Israelites, they had to go down in being oppressed, and they finally wake up. This world, with these wars and stuff going on, when they finally those nuclears, if they do go off, and people start dropping dead, and all of a sudden people will get a brain and they'll come back to facts, because God is going to make sure of that. So they're saying who's right and who's wrong, but nope, we're not going to get into that, because we do. All of us human beings, we know what the truth is, but we're going to stick with our little evil ways or selfish ways or whatever it is. That if that's what we're going to do, eventually, if I put my hand in that analogy, put my hand in it, we start smelling that meat burning, then we're going to wake up. And if that's what it's going to take, God's going to have to put us into captivity and tear us down so we can stop and start reflecting and thinking about what God is trying to tell us. Okay. And I also want to say this too. I know about human beings. We try to deal with what we know. We're scared. Some of us want to be leaders. Some we just want to be followers, and we don't know which person to follow. If everybody's over here, a whole bunch of people over here, so that must be right. Just because there's some restaurants, I won't mention names because I don't want to get in trouble with them, but I seen long lines around the thing, and I tried the restaurant, and after I tasted it, you know what? I'm not going back. I didn't like the food. So that was my opinion, my taste buds. And I want you to understand that. That's my opinion, my taste. It didn't say that because there was a lot of people there. But in that line, I assume they did that, or they was their first time experience. But, I see these restaurants. But I've seen a lot of good restaurants go out of business, too, because eventually that whole thing wears off. Well, I was just going there because of the name. No, I go to a restaurant because if it tastes good, if it's healthy and what have you. But I have learned that. So I'm not going to go back and keep eating something that, excuse me there, have you seen those two glitches and everything? I kind of kicked the stand because I guess I'm getting too relaxed here. But anyway, bringing this to an end, I think I covered the points I want to cover. Be careful when we read in a question how to read the story. And I'm making that point because a lot of times we take questions and make statements out of it. But if anything, I want to summarize the thing here. Just like I said, the famous thing. My wife. This is God did not call perfect people, and I gave examples like that. They were not perfect, so we're not all perfect. But when our minds is focused and setting and we're trusting God, then God can use you because He knows you're going to keep following Him and doing what needs to be done. If you have a person you can't depend on them doing the right thing, just like a boss expects, well, I need A, B, and C done so I can meet these schedules. And if you can't get A, B, and C done, then the boss is going to be worried and going to be driving them nuts, and they can't make the schedule that they're trying to put all these pieces together. And the reason why I use that because I have one daughter that has a business, and she is just driving her nuts that the employees are not accomplishing the things that she would like them to accomplish. But stop and think about it. People have all kinds of problems, and it's one thing is this. If I was a boss, I never fired anything about what I did not like. Because to give you for instance, is one employee I fired him because he was taking 6-hour lunches. So the company's only allowing you 1 hour off, but it's not going to pay you for 6 hours for taking a lunch. So I had to let him go. And that's very clear. And they said, am I hiding things? No, that was the bottom line. And they wanted to keep defiant, so I had to let him go. So, and that's the thing, we have to make it very clear. So why in the world, if you just keep giving excuses, well, my dog died and all this thing, and I keep paying you, that's the loss of revenue for the company. That will not impact our bottom line. But anyway, when as I say, bringing this to an end, with Gideon, he was just like Moses. He was saying that his clan wasn't strong enough. It wasn't the best. Or you could be saying in your life, I can't get the education, or I can't open a business, or I can't do this here because I'm not smart enough. Then become smart. Go get the education. Go do what you got to do. But if God calls you into, then God's calling you for a reason. Because he said when he walks with you, it's going to be fine. And I want to home in on this too, because when I got my degree, because I thought, I just want to see. But I was doing everything I can. I put the work in. I put the hours in and everything. God blessed me because he saw that my actions, that I wanted this, and he just continued to bless me. He guided me through this because God can guide you if you're doing, your mindset is right and you're working with God and doing that. So this excuse that Gideon was at the end giving God and said, hey, my clan is not weak. I don't have enough clout. I don't have enough. God's going to make sure that happens because I didn't have enough clout and I didn't have this. And God just made ways that, all kinds of ways. And because I want to end with this thing here, but I want to end with this other analogy because I was working at TRW and they sent me off when I was working on my degree, sent me off and I had a 6-month project. And that 6-month project, I was blessed by the people there because when I put the hard work in the 6-month project, it was a mediocre thing. Back in the days, we don't have the internet, and we didn't have all that. Everything is cut and paste and tape and scissors and all this other stuff. But I found a quick way of getting this thing done. I got it done within a month, and I had 5 months left. So I said, okay, let me go back over to where I was loaned out, and the boss said, no, we got you for 6 months. So they said, you help us when you can, but other than that, we want you to show up and work and study. There, God opened the door, gave me 5 months where I could concentrate and study and get paid. And so I was blessed there. I know I said the other guy took a 6-hour lunch, but also this is companies, the bosses were helping out. I hope that don't sound hypocritical, but it was a blessing. I got paid. And seeing this is what I'm telling, like kind of frail, but I'm going to be honest with you. That's what happened. But God is with you. But I don't want to teach that I'm going to steal in the name of the Lord because it kind of sounds guilty when I say it. But I want to end with this. In his very last, it says, pardon me, my Lord. Gideon replied, but how can I save Israel? My clan is the weakest in the Manasseh, and I am the least in my family. See, I felt that same way, but I want to end with this. That verse is, and the Lord answered, I will be with you.